Lines under the marking, so you have a good result. So always focus when you are doing the marking. So after we will mark the patient for the whole techniques, we're gonna start our demonstration. The demonstration I'll do like 3-4 cases. So it will take another like almost 2.5 hours. And then we will do some kind of one case of hands-on. If anybody of the people that not really so much getting used to the 6D, you can practice a couple of threads. And then if there's anything extra for anybody, I'm gonna stay till all of you are happy. So let us start. As you see this presentation, why the pointer is not working? Because of the light. This is called the whole story. Exactly. Cones or cogs or barbs or whatever. The surgical threads are smooth. The lifting threads are barbed or coned. So, the history of barb suture, 1987, the first idea, wire scalpel. When they made the thread in the beginning, when they think to apply something under the skin to do effect in the subcutaneous, it was made of metal. It was metal. When the purpose was to cut any subcutaneous adhesion or fibrosis, and they made it like a double needle. You know the giggly saw? Anybody good use with the orthopedic surgery? There's something called giggly saw. It has two handles, and you cut any bone. This is the same concept. You have a thin metal cord, and you have two needles at the end. You make a circle around the area, and then you switch it, and you do like that, slowly, till you just go out of the hole. So you just soften and cut everything. That was the first idea, to make something to work under the skin in a subcutaneous level. Then we will take after 30 minutes, okay? Then non-absorbable suture, 1996 by Marlene Solomonais. When they made the first thread, it was made of what? First thread ever in the world was made of Berlin. They made the same Berlin for surgery, but thicker Berlin, and they inserted the subcutaneous with barbs. The barbs at that time was only unidirectional, so it didn't make a big success. First, it was migrating. You put the threads here, you found it there. Go out from here. And there was a high level of infection and so much aggressive technique to fix the thread later, and it was big drama. Then they make the double needle 2003, mostly by Shiro Akado. And then 2005, they made the absorbable threads by Aptos. What is the absorbable threads of Aptos made of? It's made of what? Polycarbonate. Thank you so much. It's PCL polycarbonate. There are only two famous company producing polycarbonate, which is Promo Italia and Aptos. 2006, Aptos Happy Left, made in Italy. They split. Before they were one company, by the way. The Promo Italia were the distributor of Aptos in Italy. Then they switched and made their own company. So, 2006, Aptos Happy Left, made in Italy. 2007, the idea of cones by Silhouette. Silhouette came almost around 2007, and the idea was to change the barbs into cones. So instead to have a lot of multiple barbs, you have a fewer number of cones, okay? And then in 2008, Spring Threads, the French one, 2010, the BDO started to be manufactured. The BDO, when they started only with the mono screw. Almost in 2013, they started to have the cog threads. Why people love the threads? Because of these things. That's one patient after 5 days. That's the first threads ever invented. It was one unidirectional. You see, all the barbs are going in one direction. Okay? Then down, they made it the bi-directional. This is bi-directional. But do you notice something important? That all the barbs, either unidirectional or bi-directional, where it is? In one surface, in one plane. So if you touch the thread from above, you're gonna find some barbs. If you touch it from down, there's nothing, it's smooth. That's why they call it uni or bi. Okay, I will tell you later on who's invented the idea of 3D and 4D and stuff. Okay, this is the types of the threads. In the whole world, there are only 3 families of threads. Only 3 families of threads. Okay? The first family is the bar-based suture. The second family is the cones-based suture. The third family is the BDO threads. So whatever, any thread you will face and meet in the whole world, it will not go out of these 3 types of sutures. Okay? Barbed, cones, BDO. I just want to tell you, this presentation, you will never ever see it with anybody else. That's a collection of everything related to the threads in the whole world. So, there are many ways to make sure that you have a good lifting regarding the barbs, about the length of the cogs, number of the barbs, the angle, the distribution, the chemical composition, which is very important. Don't think that every PCL is the same, or every BDO is the same, okay? Polycarbolactone, it's a polymer. BDO, polydexinone, is the polymer. When it is a polymer, that means you will produce a BDO completely different from the BDO I'm producing. It doesn't mean that the whole BDO companies are the same, or the whole PCL company is the same, because it is a polymer. Polymer means it has a lot of additives. It has a lot of things. That's why you will find one company, for example, producing BDO, you can easily cut it with your hand. And another company producing the same BDO with the same thickness, but impossible to cut it. Tensile power. When you hold the thread, it is straight with high tensile power. There are other threads, when you hold it, it's like that. Okay, for example, most of the BCL, they are more soft. They're low tensile power. That's why they don't have immediate results strong. Okay, that's bi-directional, that's unidirectional again. So, that's the second family. What is this family? The cones-based suture, which in the world are 4 companies only. There are only 4 companies. What is the missing company? No, the cones-based suture. This is cones-based suture. Sorry, this is not the phone, this is the whole thing here. This is types of threads in the market: Silhouette, Aptos, Spring, and Happy Lift. We will talk, and then this is the BDO. We will talk about each one in separate later. This is the most important slide in the whole presentation. This is the most important slide in the whole presentation. As you see, there are some red marks and green marks. What is that? Why in some areas is green and some areas are red? The green areas are correct insertion, which is what? You see? Subdermis, subcutaneous, deep subcutaneous. But there are red marks, which is superficially. What is the red marks here? In which level? Intradermal. It's contraindicated. Even subdermal, I don't like when you have a thick thread. I prefer always subcutaneous. But sometimes with the thinner threads, you can still work subdermal. What is the other red mark? Exactly, into the mass. Superficial musculoaponeurotic system. When you are in the mass is wrong. When you are in the dermis is wrong. So always we have to be above the mass, under the skin, between the mass and skin. So please make sure that always we are in subcutaneous level. The barbed suture come in many forms. Because sometimes a lot of people ask me a very weird, strange question for me. What is more strong? The cannula thread, the BDO, or the double needle? For me, this is not a question. This is not a question. The double needle is a tool to insert the thread under the skin. Itself is not a thread. When I say double needle, it might be good or medium or bad, strong or medium or weak. It doesn't matter, like if it is double needle, that means it should be good. No. There are good double needle, average double needle, and poor double needle. Depending on which thread is attached to the needle and which technique you use. The most important thing in any thread is the technique. What I will do with the thread. I can have a best thread ever, but I do a bad technique, I will never have a result. So, we have always to know this is tool to insert the thread. The first one is the free floating. Always this will be mentioned later. Double needle, anchorage, eye needle, cannula threads. This is any thread in the world will come in one of these forms. Either a thread alone without any needle, or two needles at the end, two straight needles, we call it double needle, or one needle at the end straight, one needle curved at the other end, we call it anchorage, or we can have something called eye needle, which is like the tennis net. The thread is coming from the middle of the needle. So each needle has two ends. And then the cannula thread like the BDO style, and after the visage. Free floating indication, zygomatic, mandibular, will not talk too much, but this is how the free floating come. When you say free, some companies call it thread alone, or free floating. That means it is a thread coming with no needle at all. The no needle at all, how we insert it? Using a spinal needle. The same needle for spinal epidural injection or anesthesia. You can use the same. You put the needle, and then you remove the trocar, and then you insert the thread slowly. It's one of the techniques. We are not talking now about what is good or bad. Now we are building concepts. I want you to understand what does it mean threads, what is any threads can mean in the whole world. That's how the thread coming of the free floating, which is bidirectional convergent. Bidirectional convergent threads. That's how the technique, because these threads are soft. Very soft. If you will do just straight lines, and now when the company promote, you will have almost zero result. In order to work good with these threads, you have to create these curves and crossing curves techniques. So it needs a lot of training or practice to be able to do such kind of techniques. That's how it is in life of the patient. There are very important point here, which will explain a lot. Okay, you know that I already started the idea of doing the threads on the opposite direction, from down to up, right? You know that. That came from this slide. There are very important information that 99% of the people, they do training of threads, they don't understand it or know it. The threads can be classified in many classifications, that's what I'm doing. But there are very important classifications which guide you to do the proper technique. There are two types of threads when you come to the classification. There are threads called intra-athetic zone threads and threads called inter-athetic zone threads. What does it mean? There are threads, in order to give you the optimum result, it has to start in one aesthetic zone and end in another aesthetic zone. And there are threads to give you the optimum result, it should start and end at the same aesthetic zone. That's a type of intra-aesthetic zone threads. This time, Bromo Italia and the Aptus, the polycarbonactone, bidirectional, convergent. It is a type of intra-aesthetic zone thread. That means it has to start and end at the same zone. The issue is, when the people, that was the first thread, by the way, like 10 years back there was only that. We were working with that only, there was nothing more. Only that kind of threads. 10 years back, in 2010 or 2009, when we started to do threads. The issue is when they started the Korean companies to manufacture the threads, the trainers, they were not so much trained because the world was only 2 people teaching threads, Marlene Soleimani and Shira Okado. So not everybody was able to be well trained. That's why they designed the technique of the Korean thread to start from here. And they make it as if it is intra-aesthetic zone threads. They start from zygomatic, for example, to end in zygomatic. Okay? But the thread is not the same because it is inter-aesthetic zone threads. What does it mean? The BDO threads, in order to have the optimum result, it should start at one zone, end up in another zone. Start in one zone, end up in another zone. So, there are a difference between a thread like a bi-directional conversion threads and a thread which has a multi-direction barbs, okay, made of another material. That needs a technique and that needs a technique. That's why you have to know that there are threads that's why Aptos, where they start? Did you see training of Aptos, insertion of Aptos visage? Where they start? Point on yourself. Even here, not even there. Why? Because they understand. Because they know what is their threads. That's the issue. You have to understand. Okay? The guy who invented the threads, the father of the 2 guys, he had the concept. He understands. That's why he made these techniques. By the way, there are these techniques of the father, not for the Constantine and the other guy. So that's why he makes the entry point as if it is like intra-aesthetic zone threads. That's why when I started working with the BDO, I believe if you put the BDO from here to there, you will not have the result. Because this is not the optimum technique for that kind of threads. Okay? So, we will keep forward. That's what we call the easy technique. When you work with that for the barb suture BCL, 0 result. Like that, nothing. Because there is no crossing, there is nothing, so there's nothing. I'm not gonna show any before and after, we'll make everything live. This is the double needle. Again, guys, the double needle is a tool was invented mainly to make more angled track. For example, you have a straight line, but you want to make an angle. So you enter from the angle and you go one needle to go up, one needle to go down, one needle to go lateral, one needle to go medial. So the double needle is not a tool, it's not a thread, it's a tool to insert the attached thread. So when I say double needle is better or BDO, that's not a question, okay? I'm hungry, I'm gonna drink water, exactly, okay? So this is how the double needle come, and this is how the threads can come like that. There are many techniques of the double needle. When you see any technique of the double needle, the company should not tell me what I do. I should understand when I see any catalog or any thread, what should I do? Where is the entry point, the main entry point? Exactly at the middle of track, at the main angle of the thread, at the mandibular angle. So this is number starting S, this is the first one. Then one needle go up, can exit and go in. One needle go down, can exit and go in again. So the middle of the track exactly is the entry or double needle. Exactly the middle of the track. Where is the middle of the track here? Where is the entry point? Which is the one lateral at the border of sternomastoid, which is signed by S, because this is the middle of the track. One arm will do that, and another arm of the needle will do that. I can give you the presentation all at the end. This is a way of doing the eyebrow. It's a little complicated way, but again, if I want to start, where is my starting point? Exactly at the middle of the track, so it's going to be here. One needle go like that, and one needle go like that. So, always I have to understand, when I see any track for a double needle, my entry point, my main first entry point, always at the middle of the track. And then I do what I want to do. When you go more in and out with the double needle, that's, guys, this is the techniques that can produce results with double needle. Don't think when you put double needle to make one thread like that and one like that and you cut, now I did a double needle and I'm happy and I will have result. This is drama. Okay? In case if you want to do a double needle work, you have to work like that. You have to work like that. But don't think that just to make this one from here and this one like that, I cut, I finish, wow, this is wonderful. It will never be wonderful. Okay? If you want to work with a double needle, you have to do a very advanced technique. Okay? Like that one, for example. Do you see how many double needles is that? This is 3 double needles for the neck. Okay? With a very advanced way. I'm gonna do this technique today, but at the end. For you. Okay? So this is one of the techniques also you can do for the double needle. I don't show any before and after. This is the anchorage, which nobody is using now. It was unidirectional thread, so in order to fix it, you use the round needle to stitch the thread in the deep temporal fashion. That's why, again, we believe in fixation. There are something called the anchoring. If the thread is not anchored, it will never give you result. Okay? You have either to make threads or to make a lot of crossing and tracks. Otherwise, no result. Don't think it's just inserting the thread subcutaneous, you will have the result. The results are coming from anchoring, fixation, anchoring, fixation. You have to understand what gives you the result is fixation, anchoring the threads. Okay? That's a way of anchoring, but it's the old way, just for your info. That's the eye needle, as you see. The thread is coming from the middle of the metal. So you have 2 ends for each thread. It's like the shoelace. When you do this technique, it's like the shoelace, like that. That's one way also to work with double needle or eye needle. That is the techniques of double needle. But what I see now in the market is really poor, very poor techniques, very simple. The simple techniques of double needle will never give you result. That's why I work with the 6D mostly in the face in all the cases. Because you will have the result with a simple technique. Okay? That's the cones-based suture. We'll come now, we finish the first family, which is the barbed sutures. Now we'll come to the second family. Second family are cones-based suture. There are 3 companies in the world. 2 are famous, 1 are not yet famous yet, and will never be famous. The famous 2 companies are Silhouette and Spring. The non-famous one called Victoria Threads. Victoria Threads has a problem that they started with the material that caused some kind of reaction and granuloma under the skin, so discontinue and then restart again, but the people lost the trust, so it's not gonna get popular anymore. The first one, Silhouette. Made of what, guys? Silhouette is made of what? Anybody knows Silhouette? Who is working with Silhouette soft? Which made of what, doctor? It's polylactic acid. The Silhouette? No, now is old one. The Silhouette soft is the same. They are just lined.
In America, it's different.
No, actually, by the way, do you know that Silhouette is not American? Anybody knows this information? Silhouette was invented by a Spanish doctor from Barcelona. But the people from the company of Silhouette, they saw the idea, they liked the thread, they bought the idea and take it to America to make the FDA. So it was invented by a surgeon in Barcelona. I don't remember his name. So it's made of polylactic acid. Before, in the beginning, they started to make 2 different types of material. But now they shifted to make it all made of polylactic acid. Okay? For less reaction and everything. They have the 23G pointed needle. They have 8, 12, 16 cones or whatever. Okay? That's how the Silhouette threads look like. And this is some of the Silhouette technique. What is the entry point? Which market with which color?
Red.
Red. Why? Because it is in the middle of the track. It's double needle. Silhouette is double needle or not? It is a double needle. That means any entry can be where? In the middle of the track. So that's the red point. So if I want to do Silhouette, this is the technique for Silhouette. What is the advantage and disadvantage of Silhouette? Advantage is what? It's very, very easy to do. It's very simple. Just little hole, go like that by cut. Okay? It's very simple one. Less problem, less pain, everything. But what is the disadvantage of Silhouette?
Price.
2 things.
Price.
First one is the price. It's very expensive. Second one, they call it soft. Because it is soft. It has a soft result. Okay? It will not match like people having fat, too much fat in the skin. It will should not match eyebrow or nose or neck. Can you open the website of Silhouette? You will understand what it means, Silhouette. In the front page of the website of Silhouette, they are saying, if you are looking for a defined jawline, Silhouette is your proper solution. Even the company who produced the thread, they promote they are only only used to define the jawline. So that's the issue. The company, even they doesn't believe in themselves. They don't promote for more than the jawline. So just please open the startup page of website of Silhouette. You will see what I'm saying. Silhouette is a very weak thread. It is very nice, very easy to do, minimal problem, but the cones can easily be broken. And the result, to have a good result, you need really a lot of threads, which is gonna be too much expensive for you and for your patient. That's another way of Silhouette, but by the way, it cannot work at all in the eyebrow. Why you cannot work with Silhouette in the eyebrow or nose? With Silhouette, exactly. But we can cut the extra. No, that's not the main reason. The main reason is what?
The cones.
Why especially Silhouette cannot be used in the eyebrow or the nose? Why?
The cones.
Of course! You will see the cones bedded like that. I had seen it a lot. You touch, this is like balls. This is the cones bedded. Because here there is no subcutaneous fat at all. So if you put the cones here, you will see it. That's why they always avoid putting it in eyebrow or in the nose. I don't care about before and after. What is this thread? The second type of barbed or cones-based thread. What is this? Spring, the French threads, the threads that last forever. The threads that have more than 5 years left. It's true? It is not true. But it's the threads is really permanent. But the result, of course, is not permanent. The threads are made of what? This is made of two types really, which is silicone and silicone and silicone and polyester. It's made of silicone and polyester. The core of the thread is made of medical polyester, and the arms, as you see, the arms going out are made of silicone, medical grade silicone. So this thread is made of polyester and silicone. It is getting popular only in few countries. It's made in France, but getting popular in some countries like maybe Morocco, sometimes also some countries like in Egypt. It's not so much popular in the Gulf, I guess. Not so much popular, right? You agree with me, or in Iraq, right? Not so popular. Because of, now people are more afraid to use permanent threads because of the problems that can happen in 5 years, in 10 years, you never know. And also, always the threads is a story. When you start the story, you have to go with another chapter. So when you do threads and a couple of years more, when you do another threads, you will find the old threads. It will be an obstacle to do it again. It will be a burden. It will be very hard to pass over or under the thread. It will limit these cones coming to these cones. It's really headache when you do a redo for spring threads. What is the advantage and disadvantage? The advantage is that can make a good lift. This one can make a good lift. The disadvantage can also not used in kind of nose, eyebrow, whatever. The second disadvantage is permanent. The third disadvantage is very, 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 very aggressive invasive technique. That's the technique. You see where is the thread going out? In the cerebellum almost. So that's how they do. They start from the hairline and go up with one thread. Start from the hairline and go down with one thread. Do you know what is the entry point for spring threads, guys? You know what is the entry point for thread? This is the entry points. They start from here and go up, then start from here and go down. It's really invasive. The needles are big. Actually, the needle is not sharp. It's a blunt needle, by the way, but it's still bulky and so aggressive technique, as you see. The thread is bulky. The needle is bulky. It's like. By the way, I received a call from a friend of one of the doctors here, like 2 days ago. She knows. She went to one of her friends went to a doctor and she promoted her eyebrow lift with spring. If you see when I saw the first time the photo, I realized it's like a case of post concussion, والله. PC ولا حاجة. There was a lot of bandage and drama and there was swelling like that, and so I don't know how they can make this big needle and they start from here and exit here just to lift the eyebrow. It was really horrible, really horrible. Exit, you have to exit from middle of the skull, of the head. Okay, video threads, which is the Celeste family that we rely on. There are, you know, we agreed that when was the BDO started to be manufactured? Anybody knows? I just mentioned in the first slide of my presentation. Thank you so much, 2010. Okay, do you know who the first company to produce BDO? Imagine it was a Japanese company, not even Korean. Japanese companies started to produce threads like the mono, only the mono. But they didn't have passion to keep going. They just quit easily because they didn't find a good sales, and like people were only working with two companies, Artus and Promo Italia at that time, 2010. And then they quit. Then the Korean people started to copy the idea from the Japanese and make some mono and then screw and then double screw and then whatever and then till around 2013 when they started the first cook threads. When they started the first cook, it was only unidirectional cook threads. 2013 was the first Korean cook unidirectional threads. They call it cook. They don't call it unidirectional. Call it cook. When you hear cook at that time, it won't means unidirectional. Then later on they produced the cook by, and then now came the benefit or the real advantage that the Korean people add to this industry. The Korean people, they add two things to this industry. They make really two good valuable things. The first one was what? To create a three-dimensional barbs. What does it mean? Barbs, before we agreed it will be in one plane, but the other planes are empty. But now when you make a cross section on any 3D or 4D or 6D thread, what you will see? The whole way around you have barbs. The barbs is not only here, it is here and there and there and here and everywhere. So that's the first modification that the Korean people apply to the thread. They make it like a multi-directional thread, like 3D or 4D or 6D. When I say 3D, I mean you have 3 columns of barbs at 3 different levels. When I say 4D, you have 4 columns of barbs at different angles. When I see 6D, you have 6 directions of barbs at different angles. Okay? The barbs, when it's coming more barbs, it gives more lift. But not only the barbs are important. There's a very, 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 very important point, which is the tensile power of the threads. What does it mean, the tensile power? When a company is coming to you to tell you, I am the best company in the world, this is the best video ever, you will never have my result. First thing, you have to take out the threads out of the cannula. You have to feel the barbs with your own fingers. You have to try to cut the threads. You have to see the tensile power. Is the thread is like this pen? Okay? Or it is like this paper. Okay? That's a bad thread. That's a good one. Okay? You have to see the thickness. You have to see the tensile power. You have to see the barbs. You have to see the cannula. The metal of the cannula. Not everybody saying something. Okay, tomorrow I'll tell you I have 16 D threads. It's the best. It's wonderful. It's amazing. You have to take out the thread out of the cannula. You have to touch it with your hands. You have to examine it. You have to try to break it down. Even sometimes when I can't break it with my hand, I used to use my teeth to see how it is strong. This is really important. That's how I test the threads myself. With my hand, with my teeth even, to see if it's really strong or they align to me. So you have to see the tensile power, you have to see the strength, you have to see the thickness, you have to see the barbs, you have to see the metal of the cannula. All this is what make at the end a good effective thread. So, to go back, the first modification was the idea of 3D, 4, 6D and whatever. That was the first modification the Korean people added to the threads industry. The second modification was they made it more easy with more options. Means what? Different sizes, different gauge, different diameter, and the most important thing in my opinion was inventing the L-shaped cannula. The L-shaped cannula is very, very convenient to drive, and at the same idea, it is very safe. You will never have a big problem with L-shaped cannula. You can have a little bruises, okay, it's minor hematoma. That can happen rarely, but you will never have a serious complication with the L-shaped cannula. The L-shaped cannula is midway between the sharp and the blunt. It has the advantage of the sharp that's easy to drive, disadvantage of the blunt, advantage of the blunt, which is more safe. So we have the cannula, which is L-shaped, which is more safe, and we work today with always L-shaped cannula, okay? So L-shaped cannula and multi-direction threads. I'm not gonna, this is the kind of sharp needle, as you see. Sharp needle, these threads come inside the needle sharp. This is the blunt, this is the L shape, and this is the U shape. I don't like the U shape because it's very easy, very difficult when you try to go out to hold the thread in place. Because the thread is not attached to the skin at any point. That's why it's very difficult to hang in the skin. So you can go out again and you find the threads with you when you are using a U-shaped cannula because it's almost covered. Okay, that's the Cook 3D. Which, like as you see down, the bulbs are going in multi-direction everywhere. Blah blah blah. That's okay. Strengths, whatever. That's okay. There is one mistake here in this slide. Can you show me the mistake? This is cross section of the threads. Yoni and Bi and 3D. The Bi is one, huh? Bravo. Who said the Bi is one is mistake? This you. Actually, the slide is correct. Why? Because when we talk about Bi, that means the whole barbs are in one plane. So if you do a cross section, here you will find it one. Cross sections in, again one, here, so on. So only starting from 3D, you can see the whole way around. So that slide is not correct. I was just teasing you. It's not wrong, sorry, it's correct. That's 6D threads with more barbs, 3D, there are 4D and whatever. That's the heart lifting threads. It shows it's very close to the design of spring, but made of BDO. The heart lifting, we have it in our region with 18G cannula. The heart lift is 18G. I use it for the heavy neck, and I use it also for breast lift, body lift mainly, generally. I don't know if we have a case of body lift today or not, but we might have. Okay, that's exactly the heart lift, guys, okay? That shape exactly. That one exactly is the heart lift, which really will give you a very, very, very good result in the neck lifting. There are many techniques in the whole world that you can find, many crazy techniques, many silly techniques, many weird techniques, and some good. This one, for example, is not bad, but there are a lot of things that, like, for example, what is that? By the way, this is not uncommon. A lot of doctors, they do that and they believe it's good, and, you know, what is this? Just thread, just insertion of thread under the skin, and that's it. With no purpose, with no hadaf, with no planning, with no objective, just insert thread. That's a basic one. It's not bad, but we can do better. Okay, I'm not going to show also again any before and after picture. That's my own personal photos. Thank you so much for this presentation.